3, 2, 1, action.
Are you kidding?
Off my set!
So we're underneath Will's car. We're going to be changing the oil on his Type R. I'm just going to try and give like a how-to because there aren't too many out on the internet yet. We're going to be changing the Motul that's right over here, the Motul 300 high RPM, 020, and then we're going to be doing a turbo blanket. You guys saw in the last video the intake blanket that we did, so it's going to be basically the same idea except we have to take the downpipe off partially to get to the hot side of the turbo. So we're just draining the oil right now. Obviously, you guys know what the Type R looks like underneath. It says engine oil right here. Pretty self-explanatory. He's just getting a bucket to put underneath.
Forgot to get a rig.
The 2019 Type R, the oil filter is actually very conveniently located. It's right here. It's on an easy angle, so you can fill this up with oil before you put it back in. He's just going to pull that out, but there's not enough space for me to put the camera with the tripod underneath here, so you're not going to miss too much information. He's just going to pull that piece out, and we're going to replace it. So if you remember on the video where I took my oil filter out, it's facing like this way. It's underneath the wheel well. It's totally awkward to get to, so the 10th gens are actually much nicer to do. So this is definitely something you could do on the driveway in your back, but Will just wanted to come over and use the lift. It was open, so we might as well do it. So we just finished changing the filter on the bottom, so we're just going to fill it up with the Motul 020. This is recommended on the 10th Gen and Type R forums, so this is what Will's going to go with. He said, like you said before, it's the Bosch filter. We're just going to fill it up. It takes about 6 quarts, you said?
6 on the dot.
6 on the dot, basically. So just obviously fill up the oil. Not going to really film this, just filling up oil. It's going to be basically the same taking out of the intake as it was in the last video of Will's car, so if you want to see that, you could watch the time lapse in the last video. We're just going to cut straight to working on the turbo blanket. So we got the intake back out. If you guys didn't see the video of us putting the intake blanket on, I'll link it in the... So we got the intake back out, and now Will is starting to work on getting the heat shield and everything off. We already pulled the spark plug, not the spark, the O2 sensor out.
I got both of these bolts loose. Unfortunately, there's a third one down in here. I'll see if I can find the two. Ow. I'm actually touching it. It's not big.
So we just switched back to the T3i really quick, just so I can get some zoom in and stuff like that. Will is still removing everything, and once he gets that final bolt off he was just talking about right down here where his hand is, I'm going to start filming again. So we got the heat shield off. The bolt was really awkward to get to, so I ended up taking off this plastic shroud right here and going underneath the radiator support. If you look on the heat shield right here, it's this awkward bolt that's definitely way too low and like out of the way. It might be easy to get from underneath the car, but we didn't think about doing that. We got it out, so that's a good thing. Up next, he's going to be taking off the 4 bolts for the downpipe. There are 2 up here, and then 2 slightly lower, a little bit wider. And then once the downpipe's out, then we'll have access to the hot side of the turbo to put the blanket on. Since he put the intake on, the right here, right where it sits basically against the turbo, is already getting hot and shrunk compared to like this area. It's very like scaly sounding. So we'll be doing this one more time pretty shortly because we are going to be doing Will's downpipe on this car soon. But he wants to do his K-tuner jailbreak first. So we finally got them loose. You definitely want to be careful with these. You don't want to round these off or strip them in the turbo because that would be horrible. So we're just going to get this off really quick and then I'll jump back when we start doing the turbo blanket. So we got the turbo blanket on now. It's not officially wrapped up like how this is right here with this wire, but it is in place. We just kind of took the downpipe off with the bolts and then just kind of pushed it to the side. We are going to be doing this again, like I said before, because Will does have a downpipe. It's a PRL downpipe.
PRL catless downpipe.
PRL catless downpipe. So he's just waiting for to get his K-tuner jailbroken, so that way he can run a tune on it. Because obviously it's going to change the AFRs and the everything else. It's going to make more power and everything. So he does want to dyno it and everything after that too. So right now this is just heat management, something that you should definitely look into. It's something that's overlooked for a lot of cars. Between this and the intake inlet, or the intake heat wrap, I think the temperature is definitely going to go down. Once we put this on, he's going to try driving around again, obviously, and he has his K-tuner up in the corner of his window, so he's going to see if the temperature is going to change, but I'm pretty sure it will because the hot side lays across the intake. As much as the PRL intake does help, it definitely is not going to help against a hot turbo laying against your intake manifold. So we got the downpipe back on. Will's putting the O2 sensor back in now. If you guys do not have an O2 socket, this is going to be kind of hard to do because it is like inside of this little beveled piece. So now this is all back together, and that's just going to go back together like it did in the last video when Will put the intake blanket back on.
For the record, they do sell these sockets at AutoZone, Pep Boys. Just ask for an oxygen sensor socket. They should have one.
So everything's going to go back together now, and then he's going to have to drive it around, and this will eventually shrink to size. So we got the turbo blanket on now. The intake blanket was on before in the last video, like you guys saw. Now Will is just going to go put the plate on underneath the car really quick, and then that's going to wrap it up for this video.